How to understand the stock market without technical jargon. Beginner's Guide. If words like shares, ETFs, and PE sound like a foreign language to you, today we're going to clear things up. No endless theory and no technical jargon. I'll explain how the stock market really works in a practical way and with simple examples. You'll understand what a share is, why prices rise and fall, how to read a chart without getting confused, and which numbers to look at to understand whether a stock is expensive or cheap. That way, when you invest, you're no longer guessing, you're thinking. Let's get started.
The stock market supermarket. How to shop on the stock exchange. Let's start with the basics. Without these, everything else seems confusing. What is a share really? Forget the charts for a moment. A share is a tiny part of a company. If you own a share in Apple, you are, technically, a minority shareholder. This does not mean that you make decisions, but it does mean that you participate in the value of the company. Sometimes you will hear the word equity. It simply means share of ownership. If someone says, I have equity in a startup, they are saying that they own a slice of it. These exchanges take place on a stock exchange, that is, an organized market. The most famous exchanges are the NYSE and NASDAQ. To find a specific company, you need a code. The ticker is short abbreviation. Apple is AAPL. Tesla is TSLA. Everything you buy ends up in your portfolio. If you have Apple, a bit of Microsoft, and maybe a fund, the whole thing is your portfolio, that is, your mix of investments. Who executes the order? The broker, the intermediary, bank, or app. Perfect. Now you know where to buy, which code to use to find it, and who executes the order. But the real question is, what are you putting in your basket?
Not all shares are the same. Guide to Growth, Value, and Blue Chip. Now that we have the where and the how, let's talk about the what. There are publicly traded companies. These are the ones whose shares you can easily buy, and they must publish financial statements and comply with specific rules. Then there are unlisted companies whose shares are not available to the public. They may be owned by founders, private investors, or funds. Among listed shares, you'll sometimes hear of two categories: ordinary shares, which most people buy, and preference shares, which in some cases give priority on dividends. Let's talk about the most useful distinction for a beginner, the one based on character. Blue chip, large, solid companies that are closely followed. They are not safe, but they tend to be more stable than smaller companies. Growth, companies that aim to grow quickly. They often reinvest their profits instead of paying dividends. High potential, but greater fluctuations. Value, companies that the market is paying little for compared to what they appear to be worth. Sometimes they are bargains, sometimes there are real reasons why they are undervalued. Perfect. Now you know that you can put very different products in your basket. The next step is to understand how you actually buy them, because the type of order can change the price, risk, and result.
It's not enough to click Buy. Guide to order types. You've chosen the stock. Now you have to buy it. But there isn't just one Buy button. You have to tell the broker how you want to buy. The simplest order is the market order. It's like saying, buy it now at the best available price. It's fast, but if the price moves while you're clicking, you may pay slightly more. If you want control, use a limit order. It's like saying, buy it only if it reaches this price or better. Example, the stock is at 102 and you only want to buy it at 100. Set a limit at 100. If it doesn't reach that price, you don't buy. The same applies to selling. I'll only sell if it goes back to 110. Then there is the stop order, which is the emergency rule. If it falls below 90, exit. It is useful for limiting losses. One small but important detail. In times of high volatility, the stop may execute at a price slightly worse than the set level because the market moves quickly. And if you want protection that adapts when you're in profit, there is the trailing stop. If the price rises, the stop rises with it. If the price then turns and falls, the stop is triggered and you exit. Finally, there are time-related orders. A day order is only valid for the day. A GTC order remains active until you cancel it. Convenient, but it needs to be monitored because it can remain there and be activated when you least expect it. Perfect. Now you know how to enter and exit the market without leaving everything to chance. The next step is to understand one thing. How do you measure whether you are really making a profit, and why the famous snowball effect can kick in over time? Before we look at how £1,000 can grow over time thanks to compound interest, if this guide is helping to clarify your ideas, subscribe and leave a like. Now, how do we know if we are making a profit?
The snowball effect, how money generates money. The basic concept is ROI, or return on investment. Example, you invest £1,000 and after a period of time you have £1,200. You have earned £200, so your ROI is 20%. Simple. But the real power in the long term is compound interest. It means that you don't just earn on the money you put in, but also on the earnings that accumulate over time. It's a snowball. It really grows when you reinvest and, above all, when you give it time. The downside is volatility, i.e., how much the price fluctuates up and down. High volatility means a roller coaster ride. Low volatility means smoother movements. And here's an important point. Fluctuating does not automatically mean losing, but it can test you psychologically. There are two typical phases. Bull market, prices rising, positive climate. Bear market, prices falling, negative climate. By convention, we often talk about a bear market when the market falls by about 20% from its highs. Then there are intermediate movements. A correction is a decline of around 10%, often physiological. A crash is a rapid and violent collapse driven by panic. So yes, the market can multiply your money, but it can also shake it up quite a bit. And this is where you see the difference between those who hope and those who reason. Instead of just looking at the price, let's start looking at the company's numbers.
Gambler or investor, the art of reading the real numbers. Now we come to the part that makes the difference between guessing and reasoning. Looking at the company's numbers, not just the price. This is fundamental analysis. The first figure is market capitalization. Market cap. This is the total value of the company on the stock market, i.e. share price times number of shares. It tells you how big the pie is. Then there is earnings per share, EPS, how much profit the company generates per share. In general, a higher EPS, and above all one that is more stable over time, is a good sign. But the key question is, am I paying a lot or a little for those earnings? This is where the PE ratio, or price-earnings ratio, comes in. A simple example, if a share costs €100 and the company earns €10 per share, the PE ratio is 10. A high PE ratio can mean the market expects a lot of growth, or the price is already high. A low PE ratio can be an opportunity or a warning sign. So it's a great indicator, but it needs to be read in context. At this point, you have two options. You can use these figures to choose a single company with greater awareness, or you can decide not to put all your eggs in one basket and buy a whole basket, diversifying with a single click.
Buying lots of companies with a single click. The power of ETFs. Individual shares are not the only option. If you want to diversify in a simple way, there are ETFs. These are baskets of securities that you buy and sell on the stock market as if they were a single share.
With a single purchase, you can gain exposure to dozens, hundreds, or even 500 companies, depending on the ETF. To avoid confusion, an ETF is the container that you trade on the stock exchange. A fund that replicates an index, such as the S&P 500, follows a passive logic. It copies the market. An active fund, on the other hand, has a manager who chooses the securities. Sometimes it works, but it often costs more. And then there are bonds. Here, you don't buy a share, you more or less play the bank. You lend money to a government or a company and receive interest in return. They generally fluctuate less than shares, but they are not risk-free. Finally, for the sake of completeness, options and futures are advanced instruments used for hedging or speculating. If you are just starting out, you don't need them. They are useful to know about, but not to use right away. Now you have the financial menu of instruments in front of you, from the simplest to the most complex. But the most important choice is not just what you buy, it is how you use it, because it depends on your style, the time you have, and your tolerance for stress.
Warren Buffett or day trader? Find out what kind of investor you are. The market isn't just about numbers, it's about psychology, and everyone experiences it differently because there are different styles. The day trader opens and closes everything on the same day. Quick decisions, lots of trades, high stress. The swing trader holds positions for days or weeks, less frenzy, but you have to withstand fluctuations in between. The long-term investor, Warren Buffett style, buys and holds for years, focuses on growth over time, and ignores most of the daily noise. Whichever style you choose, the real enemy is often you. The first trap is FOMO, the fear of missing out. You buy because everyone is talking about it, and that often means buying late when the price is already high. Once you understand that investing is also about psychology, the natural question is, how do you read the market in real time? This is where charts come in, and, as an advanced concept, short selling.
Earning money when everything collapses? Short selling and the secrets of charts. Some people use charts to interpret price behavior in addition to company figures. This is technical analysis. Candlestick charts are a widely used tool. Each candlestick shows you the opening, closing, high, and low prices for a given period. Then there are two simple but fundamental concepts: support, an area where the price often stops falling and rebounds, and resistance, an area where the price often stops rising and falls back down. Finally, an advanced concept: short selling. In practice, you sell shares that you do not own because your broker lends them to you, hoping that the price will fall so that you can buy them back at a lower price. If it falls, you make a profit. If it rises, you can lose a lot, and in theory, even more than you invested. There are also margins, borrowing costs, and broker rules. When you buy back to close the trade, it is called buy to cover. Here's the point. These aren't guru tricks. They are tools and words. When you put them in order, they stop looking like chaos and become a map, not for guessing the future, but for making more informed choices.
From noise to opportunity, your new superpower. Knowledge is the first real currency. Now you have the basics. The next step is to use them in a practical way, without rushing and without improvising. If you want to take a concrete step today, here are two simple ones. Choose a goal, savings, growth, or income, and a time frame, 1, 5, or 10 years. Create a watch list with 5 to 10 companies or 1 to 2 ETFs and note down why you are interested in them. If this video has clarified your ideas, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so you don't miss the next practical guides. Thank you for coming this far. See you in the next video.